Cinderella. We down here in the lab, as y'all can see, and today we have a little bit of a different style of video. We're not going to be going over the plants too much with this video. We're more so going to be talking about the different organic nutrients and amendments that I'm currently using to kind of just explain more of the stuff that y'all will see me using in the vlogs about the plants, so that y'all kind of have an idea of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, because I don't feel like throughout every upload with the plants I want to go through this process each video. We'll probably talk about it a little bit each upload with the plants, but we'll have this here just for general knowledge and to have an idea of what I'm doing, and if anybody else wants to mimic it. So we'll get right into it. Y'all can see the... Alright y'all, to start off here, we're just going to briefly go through each one of the things that I have up here on the shelf. So I guess I'll just start out over here. We've got our Gaia Green. This is the Power Bloom 284. This is what we will use during flower. All right, y'all, moving on. We have Gaia Green All Purpose 4x4. This is a veg amendment. Then right here, what we currently have is Sungrow Black Gold worm castings. I also use Wiggle worm castings. I usually get like a big 30-pound bag from Wiggle Worm right here on that. Then here we have some Dr. Earth Flower Girl. Obviously this is something that we use during flower. It's a 394. Then we've got our Espoma Organic Plant Tone. This is a 533. We utilize it during veg. We've also got our Espoma Organic Biotone. This is a 433. We mainly utilize it in veg, but it can be utilized in flower as well. We'll go over why later on in the video. Then I've got this TPS Plant Foods here. This is something newer that I'm using. It's got mycorrhizae plus soil probiotics, so just overall good for the root system. You'll see more Sungrow products. I do like them and their soil. Here is Perlite. They'll have another brand of Perlite. This is back to roots. The only thing to make sure of is that it's organically sourced and that the perlite does not come with any added nutrients. I think there is brands like Miracle Grow that some of their perlite blends will have like nitrogen added in them. For what we're doing, you definitely don't want that, so make sure of that. Lastly, we'll look at the soil itself. This is Fox Farms, the Happy Frog version. Lastly, on these shelves here, we have some fine grade, lab grade gypsum. It's basically a powder here. We have a similar solution fine grade langbonite. This is by Down to Earth, another popular brand here, I think. And finally, we have a big bag of Epsom salt that I'd be forgetting that I actually have. And yeah, that pretty much sums up our organic dry amendments for what we have. But for now, we'll take a step over here to our watering station just to show the last of what we've got here. We have CalMag. This is by Botanicare. You'll use CalMag throughout the entirety of the grow up until harvest, or maybe the last week or two before harvest you can stop using it. We've got this Fox Farms Bush Doctor Sweet and Dandy Bimbe. Basically just beneficial sugars in here, but we'll get more into it. And then we have this Fox Farm Bush Doctor Kelp Meal. Kelp me, kelp you. We'll go into that as well. And pH up and pH down. We've got a little bit of unsulfured molasses. This is grandma's, but the brand doesn't matter. It's that unsulfured you want. And the last thing we have is a little bit of vitamin C powder. Now, some growers that might know a bit about organics might be wondering why exactly. For instance, we might be stacking this Espoma plant tone with Gaia Green all-purpose over here because they both are veg-ready amendments that can be used in cannabis, and both of them would work alone in a soil like a Fox Farms, whether it's the Happy Frog or the Ocean Forest. So I guess we'll start to get into that explaining portion now. I had recently, we're running low on this Dr. Earth. Not much in there. We did run out of the Espoma plant tone, but I went and got some more. Anyway, since we had started to run low, our biotone is pretty much out. I knew I needed to revamp my organics, and I decided I wanted to try to run some Gaia Green again. I haven't ran Gaia Green since my third grow, which is maybe 2 years ago now. I forget, but yeah, it's been a while since I've ran Gaia Green. Back then I had a lot less knowledge in general about cannabis plants in general. So yeah, we've got more knowledge, better skill set to better utilize these high quality ingredients here. Gaia Green is on the more expensive side compared to something like Dr. Earth or Espoma. So we needed no more organic, so I just so happened to go with Gaia Green this time. And I had an idea that since these Gaia Green organic nutrients, they come with a very diverse set of inputs to get this 3 numbers that you'll see on the front, this 444 or 284, the NPK ratio. That's always with those big 3 numbers on pretty much anything. These worm castings included will tell you, it tells you the NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. However, we're not really interested in the NPK ratio of the all-purpose or the 284. All of these have an NPK ratio that are fit for the stage of growth we're in. Veg 533 works with a veg, 44 works with veg, 394, 284, all that gonna work with flower. The reason we're more interested in the Gaia Green is just the overall diversity of inputs. I think it's like 16 different ingredients in here. You'll get things like insect frass, different phosphorus or rock dust sources, and all of these have secondary benefits outside of getting you that NPK ratio. Whereas something like our Espoma, it is a very good blend. However, it is a much smaller, which a broader ingredient list doesn't necessarily mean better. However, here I am going to appreciate it. It's got a much smaller list of things here that get us the NPK ratio. However, you can look here, it has all these different bacteria forming colonies. That's where this is really benefiting us right now. Alright, so these more diverse ingredients, things in Gaia Green such as insect frass or the glacial rock dust they use can be really helpful in our soil for our plants ultimately outside of the NPK they provide. So something like insect frass, what is it? It's basically insect poop, exoskeleton, just different insect material kind of ground up and mixed together and blended together. And the benefit of this outside of anything to do with NPK is insect frass generally contains a material or chemical product called chitin, and what this does is help stimulate beneficial microbes in your soil that like to break down that material. And with those beneficial microbes and overall more healthy soil, it's just better for your plant, especially with organics, but even if you're doing something synthetic, because it helps increase nutrient uptake. It helps stage off any bad pathogens or microbes from colonizing and taking foothold in your soil, which will save you a tons of problems. as well as it can help benefit the plant's natural defense systems. So an overall good thing to have in the soil. Whereas things like glacial rock dust, they're generally, it comes from, well, glacial rock being ground up, and it's a slower, longer acting source of nutrients, and it usually provides you a broad spectrum of micronutrients. So things like iron, silica, magnesium, all those things that we need, the secondary nutrients outside of your NPK that your cannabis plants also need. And since cannabis plants are such heavy feeders, right, they'll veg out for 1 to 2 months, and then they flower in 2 months and they're done. Just 4 months out of the year and the plants are ready to go. And they generally produce nice, big, bulky, heavy trichome resinous buds. So heavy feeders with a relatively quick growth cycle. Having all those micronutrients plus your good NPK on standby for the plant at a good rate is, of course, going to benefit you. So if Gaia Green works so well by itself with these types of soil, which it can, what's the point of us continuing to use our Espoma products? One, because we have them, and two, one thing these Gaia Green nutrients right here do not come with are added microbes or fungi. And with all organic dry feeding, no matter what brand you're using or what type, they do require 2 things to work. And those 2 things are water and a microbiology. Right? Microbes will slowly feed on all this organic material that's in these products, and that breaks them down, and that's actually where the nutrient value comes from once those organic materials break down. While they're still solid and whole in this powdered form or whatever, they're completely useless to the plant. It can't use them. All right, it has to be broken down, right, into a dissolved state, and the water will carry it to the roots, and that's how that works. And again, the Gaia Green products here don't generally come with added microbes or fungi, because in my mind, right, the Gaia Green organics here are best made for a already primed living soil, which Gaia Green itself sells a very good living soil. However, as y'all know, we aren't using it. We're using Fox Farms Happy Frog, which itself already comes activated. There are already humic acids, microbes, and fungi that come in the Fox Farm Happy Frog soil. Of course, it's not going to be super potent, but it is enough there that you can get it going, feed it, let it grow and develop. But it wouldn't hurt to add on to it. So that's where 1, our Espoma products come, and 2, our worm castings. Worm castings are good in general for conditioning your soil, right? Making it just a better blended soil, drainage, all that good stuff. But they also add a bunch of beneficial bacteria and microbes, plus a steady, slow release source of nitrogen. Now the Espoma products, all right, here we are with the Espoma, and we zero in right here, and you will see these colony forming units, that is different bacterial species that will help break down all this organic stuff. Humic acids is always good. And then here you can see the different materials used for the NPK, stuff like feather meal, poultry manure, bone meal, alfalfa, green sand. Then, right, we will move down here to our Gaia Green. This is the 4x4, but the 284 is not too dissimilar for this. This is a slightly different formulation. But we'll find things like this insect frass, the seaweed meal, the gypsum, oyster shell, right? All this that was not present Espoma, the fish bone meal included. And again, all of that stuff, we went over some of it with the insect frass, has secondary benefits that will aid us in our soil. But what you didn't see on the Gaia Green was any additional bacterial or fungal things. So not only do we get, right, the benefit of the few things in the Espoma that aren't included in the Gaia Green breakdown, For the NPK, we also get all the bacteria that we can get out of the espoma. And the plant tone is honestly, or biotone is honestly just a lighter formulation of the plant tone to me, except it comes with mycorrhizae on top of that, which mycorrhizae helps establish a good nutrient uptake system for your root zone. But other than that, it's pretty much just the same thing. More so a seed starter, they imagined it as. Here again, this is microbes and mycorrhizae, just good stuff for breaking down nutrients and uptaking nutrients. I think I forgot to mention this azomite, but yeah, right, trace minerals. These are micronutrients again, stuff like your iron and all that. With our Dr. Earth Flower Girl here, it is a similar idea to the espoma. It also comes with its own beneficial microbes and mycorrhizae, as you see there. And I imagine even more helpful to break down plant or flowering organic material, like stuff like phosphorus, good stuff to break down phosphorus and potassium containing materials, since this is a flower formulated bloom blend. And we also get more mycorrhizae. So since we've got a little bit of that left, we'll be using it sparingly in flower alongside our Diadrine Power Bloom. Just kind of helps diversify things, keep the microbial life good. If it were to ever droop down inside of our soil, we know we're constantly replenishing it. Though once you have it established, a good feeding system should keep it established. Our solution grade langbonite. Now this is something you got to be real careful with here. I've experimented with it. As you can see, very potent on that K or potassium compared to anything else we've been looking at 21.5. And this is pretty much exactly what it says: potassium, magnesium, sulfate. So you get potassium, you get magnesium, and you get sulfur. And those are the benefits out of this, right? Potassium, it's one of the core ingredients for your cannabis plant. Helps it grow strong, helps you get dense buds. Magnesium helps with, I think, nutrient uptake. It helps with chloroform production and photosynthesis, which is why you'll see yellowing if you have a mag deficiency. And sulfur, the main thing I know about sulfur is it really helps in the root zone, especially with terpene synthesis. So those are all the benefits we get out of this langbonite. Now with the gypsum, this is pretty much just a source of calcium for me, but you also get sulfur out of this as well. And basically here, if I ever want to not use my CalMag, liquid CalMag out there, since it's technically not organic, we can either mix up some gypsum and langbonite, right? This will be especially good during flower, since this does give you extra K. Or we could mix up gypsum and Epsom salt, as Epsom salt is just magnesium again. So this would provide the calcium, this would provide the magnesium, or this would provide calcium, and this would provide the magnesium, and you get the benefit of sulfur, potassium, extra sulfur out of this as well. So with all this stuff here, you pretty much have the ability to run 100% organic run and have all your bases covered. That's what this diverse array of stuff does. Is it all 100% necessary to grow cannabis? Absolutely not. You could go get yourself a bag of that Fox Farms if you want to do cheaper, or if you want to do the more expensive, you get the Ocean Forest, which might save you money in the long run. Because if you get the Fox Farms Ocean Forest soil, you will not have to amend it to start off with. However, with Happy Frog, it's a little lighter of a blend. I do prefer to amend that starting off. You don't have to, but I prefer it. So no, all this stuff is not necessary. You could, again, just get the Fox Farm soil or whatever soil you want, damn near. Just any organic type of soil. Worm castings, these are necessary to me for organic growing. They even benefit you with synthetic, but especially organic, you can't skip your worm castings. And then you can get any of these brands that I've shown you. Each one of them comes with their own vegetative and flour mixture. So if you wanted to run Dr. Earth, they have a veg mix as well. Get Flour Girl, get the veg mix. If you wanted to run Espoma, you can get the plant tone and their bulb tone. Gaia Green, get the Power Bloom and the all-purpose. And yeah, you could just run those things. It'll be 4 products: soil, castings, bloom, veg mix. However, we decided to do a little extra, a little fancy work. And sometimes extra can be bad if you don't measure things out correctly, have too much stuff competing in there, overfeed, make the stuff hot. Which is why in our next segment here, I'll be going into how we actually apply all this stuff to make sure that we aren't overdoing it. But yeah, that gives you our general breakdown. Gaia Green is essentially our primary nutrient source. It's got the most diverse array of inputs to get the most primary benefits, which is NPK, and secondary benefits, micronutrients. And Espoma, right, secondary source of nutrients primarily here to continue to replenish our soil with stuff like the humic acids, microbes. Dr. Earth, same thing as Espoma, secondary feeding, microbes, fungi. This here, additional microbes and fungi if we ever need it. Azomite, more trace minerals on top of what we'll get out of the stuff from our Gaia Green. Langbonite here, right, an organic source of magnesium and potassium. Gypsum, organic calcium and sulfur. Epsom salt, magnesium without the added potassium. And yeah, that's what we got. That is what we currently have for our organics, at least for our dry amendments. Right, we back at the watering station here. With this Bush Doctor Bimbe Sweet and Dandy, I'll start with this because it's the simplest and easiest to explain. There's really not much to it. It's sugar, right? These are beneficial sugars for the plant, plus you'll get a little bit of nutrients and a few other benefits from, like I said, all the stuff that adds nutrients into your plant generally has secondary effects as well that can help. But if you look here, you get cane sugar and beet sugar, molasses, and then you got a little bit of P and K. So boom, boom. This will be good for flowering. It'll help keep the microbes going and help bulk up the buds. And yeah, that's about it. Feeds microbes, bulks up your buds. CalMag and iron. I think calcium helps with the general strength and cell wall production of your plants, whereas magnesium, again, it's important in chlorophyll production, photosynthesis, I think overall nutrient uptake. Not exactly sure what the hell iron does in the plant, but yeah, we know that it needs it. Probably the same thing it does in humans, I'm guessing. All right, now our kelp meal, probably one of the most beneficial things at our watering station, one of our better supplements here. Kelp meal has multiple benefits. Of course, you'll get a little bit of NPK, not much P, but N and K for sure. You'll also get some more micronutrients, so iron, magnesiums, things like that out of here. However, one of the big things this kelp can help with is kind of acting as a growth hormone or growth stimulator for the plant. It helps with cell division. It helps with your lateral branching. It helps your leaves stay green and maintain or retain chlorophyll. It can help with nutrient uptake. Just a lot of overall advantages to one simple product here with the kelp. And we apply this, sometimes we'll go up to once a week, but generally twice or once every 2 weeks will do you fine. And that is the same with our sugars here. We'll do these once every 2 weeks. The molasses is pretty much, these are almost redundant, honestly, the molasses plus this Bimbe, but you do get the added P and K out of here. And yeah, that's just carbons and sugars that feed microbes. And obviously the microbes is what breaks and moves everything down in the soil for your plants. So the more well fed they are, the better off everything else will be. All right, y'all. And this is, I think, a longer explainer for me. But the final thing, like I said, is to explain how we use all of these different ingredients. So I'm pretty much just going to go over my top dressing regimen.
All right, guys, for the amending and top dressing, to talk about it, I've kind of set up this little graph and chart here that gives the way that I go about it. Before we dive too much into the chart, since it is talking about amending and top dressing, and I'm going off of my current organic setup that we just went over, I will say that with blending Gaia Green and Espoma, I generally will do 3/4 of the recommended dose on the back of the package of the Gaia Green product and 1/4 of the recommended dose on the back of the package for the Espoma product. I usually just stick to what the manufacturer suggests. The only time that I kind of break that is when I have a fresh bag of potting soil like the Happy Frog or whatever. I'll kind of reduce those even further, maybe cut it in half and then apply it, because that fresh thing of soil is already going to have some nutrients in it. All right, now getting to the actual graph itself, looking up top, as we see organic top dressing, feeding schedule, and nutrient curve. We've got a general rule of thumb, around 2 weeks for the amendment to become available or top dressing, around 4 weeks of useful feeding after that. So it gives us about a 6-week window to look at with our top dress. All right, now coming off to the left here, we can see a little chart that tells us what's happening during our top dressing period. So day 1, when you top dress, you'll start counting the first week. During that first week, the top dressing begins breaking down. Nutrients gradually become available. If we look at the nutrient output, it is low. By week 2, the nutrients are broken down enough to enter a peak feeding range and be readily available. We see the nutrient output is rising. On week 3, nutritional output and uptake by the plant has reached its peak point. We see the nutritional output says peak. By week 4, we get a slow start of decline in the nutritional output. Nothing too bad right now to worry about. Still enough food for the plant to live on. However, by week 5, that decline will become noteworthy, and following into week 6, you will be very low, potentially near depleted, depending on how heavy the plant is feeding and the dose you would have used. Now we can come to the bottom left here, and it kind of shows the nutrition output curve, basically giving you a visual output of the graph above. You'll see at week 1 it starts to rise, week 2 it continues, week 3 it peaks, and it starts to slowly slope down to the 6th week for our little 6-week window that we think about with our organic nutrients. All right, we'll now be going over to the top right. We're looking at this little chart or graph, and this is showing us how we will apply our additional top dressings after that first one, because obviously on the first one you get the peak and then the decline. And if we wait too long to apply our top dressing, then we risk our plants kind of going into hunger phase, potentially starvation, and chasing after deficiencies. So generally speaking, I like to think to apply my next top dressing 2 to 3 weeks, probably closer to 3 more times than not, after our first top dressing. So looking at the chart, we'll see week 1 again. Our top dressing number 1 begins to break down. Week number 2, it becomes increasingly available. Number 3, it reaches its peak output. However, week 3, we also apply our second top dressing. That is its week 1, so it begins breaking down. Week 4, our initial top dressing starts to decline, while that second one begins to become increasingly available. Now, week 5 here, as our initial top dressing decline has become noteworthy to that point where it's going to start to be an issue, right? our second top dressing is now already at its peak nutritional output. So there is no gap in the food being supplied. And by week 6, obviously the first one is now significantly depleted, and the second one is just now starting to decline. And ideally, we would have likely applied a third top dressing sometime around week 5, as our second one has reached its peak output, and as it starts to decline, that third top dressing would start to become readily available. And this process will repeat over and over until we no longer want it to, which only comes near harvest time. Now we'll take a quick look at that bottom right chart, which kind of shows you the similar ramp and decline as the first chart. Gives you a visual here of our second graph. So you'll see week 1 and week 2, our first top dressing starts to rise. By week 3, it peaks, which is when we apply our second top dressing. So it gradually starts to rise. By week 5, it has peaked. Our initial one is pretty much going off. And you'll see the chart here shows with the purple line the third top dressing that I was talking about that we ideally would have applied on week 5. It starts its ramp and boom. If you pay attention to the dotted black line above our green, blue, and purple, you'll kind of see it showing the overall nutritional availability over the course of these weeks. And as you see, after week 2, once our first top dressing has broken down, it stays at a pretty consistent range throughout, which is exactly what we would want. We don't want there to be any significant gaps or dips in nutrient availability with our organic nutrients because of that 2-week buffer period for the availability. We would be chasing deficiencies if we allowed that to happen, unlike synthetics where you feed it and about a day or 2 stuff starts to correct. So, key takeaways: it takes 2 weeks for organic amendments to become available. You'll then get 4 weeks of a useful feeding period. You should top dress every 2 to 3 weeks to keep nutrients available, and you may stop this process only around 2 to 4, maybe 6 weeks prior to harvest to allow nutrients to deplete from the soil, the plant to use its own stores and fade out.
All right, y'all. Boy Rello checking back in with y'all after that little explainer. Hope y'all enjoyed all that. Again, it's a little longer of an explainer, but plenty of information in there and general explaining about our process here to clear it up for anyone. Should be good for new or experienced growers to watch. Other than that, if you did enjoy this explainer, do leave us a little like. If you're not subscribed, do subscribe. And if you like to kind of keep that graph and chart that I had for yourself, I think I'll throw it up on my Instagram, which I plan on being more active on social medias in general. So do give us a follow there at RelloMelloG. And we are out.